I am bullish on Bitcoin, period, full stop.
Pleb Underground is brought to you by NOHhue. Go check them out at NOHhue.com. They are building the Amazon for Bitcoiners, a one-stop shop for Bitcoin-only brands. New brands are going to be added every month, so go check them out. Don't miss what's happening at NOHhue.com. Pleb Underground is brought to you by CypherSafe. You guys all know I am a pet rock enjoyer, love the swag, love the collectibles. This is the ultimate Bitcoin collectible. That's right, guys. We're talking 16 ounces of solid titanium, the Bitcoin Rouleau Triangle. Go check it out at CypherSafe.io. That was Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple Labs. And of course, like all altcoin shillers, right? He's not an enemy of Bitcoin. He loves Bitcoin, adores Bitcoin so much, he wants you to buy his shitcoin. Anyways, this was a clip from the, what was it, the Crypto Summit 2025. And yeah, I just I kind of wanted to go through it with you guys and provide some feedback on it, because the picture that Brad is painting compared to what's actually happened throughout the history of Ripple Labs, and specifically his co-founder Chris Larson's attack on Bitcoin, which specifically attack on proof of work, which Brad never tried to stop, right? So while he sits there and says, hey, he loves Bitcoin, there's been several occasions where he could, as CEO of Ripple Labs, been like, no, we're not going to do this. Things like the Change the Code campaign, right? He could have definitely spoken to Chris Larson about donating $5 million to Greenpeace to attack proof of work. And yet none of that was done. It's a very short clip that I wanted to go over here from the Digital Asset Summit. I don't think that somebody could have put such so much misinformation into 1 minute. But you know what? I underestimated Brad. I really did. Anyways, let's take a look at this clip, and we're gonna comment on it. Here we go.
What is your opinion of Bitcoin, and do you own any?
Look, I'm glad you asked this, because I do think there is both misinformation and disinformation, and people say shit that they know isn't true. I own Bitcoin. I've owned Bitcoin for a long time. I first bought Bitcoin in 2012, coming out of an event when I was first introduced to it. And I am bullish on Bitcoin, period, full stop. I'll leave it at that. Like, there's lots of other things that people say about me, and I don't think I've ever tried to be anti-Bitcoin. There are things around that statement that people will say, oh.
So hold on. He's never tried to be anti-Bitcoin, but yet Chris Larson, right, the co-founder of Ripple Labs, he donated $5 million to Greenpeace. And back in 2020 or 2021, there was a whole entire initiative that was, of course, spearheaded by Greenpeace, which was the Change the Code campaign, right? So essentially, what it was is we needed to change Bitcoin because it was going to destroy the world. And keep in mind, this was his partner that was funneling money to that cause. Okay, so this idea that he's not an enemy, why didn't he speak to Chris Larson? Why did Ripple Labs give that much money to Greenpeace? He definitely had a say in it, right?
Oh, well, Brad said Bitcoin is controlled by China. Look,
I dug up this article from 2019. Bitcoin won't win worldwide adoption because China controls it. So, yep, it looks like he did say that.
My response to that is there was a period of time where a vast majority of Bitcoin mining was in China. That is no longer the case, and I think that's good for the industry.
And you own Bitcoin through that period anyway?
For sure, yeah. I don't remember when I last... I've used Bitcoin. I'm not sure I've sold Bitcoin. I've used Bitcoin for various transactions,
Not sure.
but I haven't sold it.
First, let's dispel the China FUD, because this is something that even a lot of altcoin supporters tend to harp on, right? Is that the mining pools control the miners. Now, look, there is a lot of nuance to that, okay? But the general overview, right? The overarching message is this: you, me, if we purchase miners, okay, we can go and point them to a specific pool, okay? Now, the pools don't actually manage the miners. They don't own the miners. They don't control the miners. If those miners decide to leave that pool and go to another pool, right? It's as easy as just changing a setting. I can do this myself through a web interface. Now, obviously, the other point of it is this, right? There was a lot of hash power that was coming out of China. It was almost 50% of the hash power. And indeed, I can understand Brad's point where he's saying, well, China was controlling it. In all fairness, and it may sound like a cope, but to me, when I saw this happening, all I saw from this was that the game theory for Bitcoin was playing out, right? You had people from different countries. I'm not suggesting that nation states were mining Bitcoin at that time. I'm not suggesting that China was or was not. But what I am saying is that different players from all over the world can simply participate in this worldwide voluntary network. It's absolutely amazing. And what ended up happening, right? China, in their infinite wisdom, banned Bitcoin mining, and we saw the hash rate drop back in, I think it was 2021 or early 2022. I don't remember anymore. We saw the hash rate drop 50%. And that was essentially just after we had hit a new all-time high exchange price on Bitcoin. It was around 69K. Okay, so that was kind of like the first shoe to drop in that cycle. And what was interesting was that we saw the hash rate drop by 50%, and within 3 months, the hash rate came back and went back to within 3 to 6 months. Not only did the hash rate come back, but it started to push new all-time highs. And the other interesting portion of it was that even though Bitcoin mining was banned in China, there was approximately at the time 16% of the hash rate still coming out of China. So when we talk about Bitcoin's game theory and incentives, we saw them play out in real time. And not only that, but what happened with the China mining ban proved, in my eyes, it helped solidify the resilience of the Bitcoin network. A nation state actor, one of the biggest nation states in the world, took a swing at Bitcoin and missed. Okay. China couldn't stop it. Anyways, so yeah, that whole rant is to, all to say that whole China, Brad was talking about misinformation. He was providing misinformation, pretending that China had some type of control over the Bitcoin network. And shitcoiners always love to portray that. They always love to portray that some type of a nation state or an entity has this undue control over Bitcoin. So what you need to do is buy my shitcoin, which makes no sense at all. To the other point that Brad said, that he's not an enemy of Bitcoin, not attacking Bitcoin, and he holds Bitcoin and all this stuff. So first there was the Change the Code campaign, which completely failed. There hasn't even been a tweet out of that account in approximately, I think, about a year. Okay, moving on. In 2023, Greenpeace contracted an artist named Benjamin Von Wong in order to create a piece of art illustrating the detrimental effects of proof of work, which you guys can see right here. Is a little pop-up of it. You can see what it looks like. And in typical Bitcoiner fashion, what did we do? Well, we took it and made it into one of our memes, right? Like, that's a pretty nice, I mean, let's face it, that is a pretty cool piece of art. And I mean, it's a pretty dope meme. And indeed, that's what it ended up becoming. And that meme ended up circulating all over the world, significantly, I'd say, faster than the Greenpeace push. And in the end, like most monikers that are depicting Bitcoiners and Bitcoin as detrimental and terrible for society, for the environment, all this stuff. Well, guess what? That particular piece of art became one of our symbols of strength. All right, present day, we now have this National Crypto Association, which of course is funded by Ripple Labs. That's right. As they were dumping bags on all of their bag holders, they took $50 million and started this National Crypto Association, and they made this cool little commercial that we're gonna take a look at right now. Here we go.
All right, you ready?
Hi guys, all good?
It's okay to look at each other, right?
Here we go.
I learned about crypto for a body of work.
I've been focusing on crypto gaming.
I was making YouTube
So just keep in mind, right? It's just people like you and me, right? And this is how crypto is going to save them.
videos.
I wanted to work on something that's a little more purpose-driven.
Having a child is what really...
So dumping bags of tokens that you made out of thin air is more purposeful.
put us in the mindset of starting to want to invest more.
So crypto became my bridge to connect.
Okay, so you got to pay attention there. I'm sorry, I keep pausing it because every single one of those comments is done on purpose, right? They show you the guy who's starting the family with his wife. Look, he wants to have a future. Invest. You have to realize all of this stuff is meant to pepper ideas in your mind, right? I want to secure my future. I want to get ahead. I want to build a family. Crypto is the answer. Anyways.
With people.
Talk to me about the blockchain. Explain blockchain.
I actually didn't know much about crypto.
And then I started really digging in, researching, and trying to figure out what is blockchain, what is crypto, how it all works.
It is simply just a record, a public ledger of value.
You can interact directly on the block.
It's only valuable if people actually choose to store their value in it. But we're not even going to go there. Let's just continue this.
Blockchain, exchange items of value much more easily.
Less fees.
Okay, that's not true. Okay, blockchains do not help you exchange items of value more easily. Okay, and sadly, right? Like they expect you not to understand anything. That's why that's why it's shilled like this. Okay, they expect you not to understand a damn thing. The problem that she's talking about there is the Oracle problem. Okay, so look, let's say I have a token that represents this hardware wallet. Okay, I have a token that represents this hardware wallet. Right now, you go and buy that token off of me. I still own the wallet. All that has exchanged hands are these tokens. That's it. It does not provide any degree of ownership. There is no violence forcing me to hand over this device to you. So what high value items are moving back and forth? Nothing. Okay? Nothing. This is vaporware. Anyways, sorry, continuing.
More transparency.
It is sustainable, it is equitable, and it's fast.
It's having flexibility and feeling.
Ooh, there's those feel-good words. Sustainable, equitable. That sounds like some DEI bullshit, right? It's like DEI, climate change, all rolled into one. Oh, just kill yourselves. That's what we should do, guys. We should be low energy people almost dying or almost dead in order to save the earth. Save the earth.
Comfort and secure, and I think crypto makes us feel that way.
By the way, just pointing out, I'm not one of those people who believes that we should destroy the earth, but what I'm pointing out is that you censoring yourself and imprisoning yourself in an illusion of sustainability and equity, that doesn't fix the environment. That does not help the world. Okay, that is all that is feel good nonsense to placate the ego.
Blockchain has given me a new medium.
Crypto is the future.
This technology really can be used for good.
I'm not even sure what just happened there. In all honesty, I feel like I was watching an ad about crypto from 2017. So look, the blockchain is just a slow database. I've said this before 1,000 times. I'm not the only one who has said this. Look, I used to troubleshoot SQL. Okay, I used to also troubleshoot another type of database called Progress. Okay, so I do have some intimate knowledge of databases and transaction speeds. And in all fairness, I haven't found a single company that desires a transparent ledger that everyone else can see, right? There's no private corporation that wants to air out their data for everyone to see, number one. And number two, they don't want it to be slowed down, okay? It makes no sense. All it is a slow database. So look, the whole reason I wanted to show this video is this is not our first rodeo. We have seen this stuff before. And what I'm talking about is Nakamoto.com. Back in, I don't know if it was 2019 or 2020, I don't even remember anymore. But essentially, a whole bunch of shitcoiners got together and bought the domain Nakamoto.com, and they wanted to educate everyone about Bitcoin, right? It was all going to be about Bitcoin. And of course, right, they were able to get a few pretty decent Bitcoiners on board with them in order to support their cause. But then when we go and actually take a look at all of the people that were supposedly supporting this Bitcoin effort, right, we start to get some pretty interesting names like Balagas, right? Who was the former CTO of Coinbase and also worked with A16Z. We've got Vitalik on this. We've got Zuko Wilcox, right? Co-founder of Zcash, Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase. We have the two founders from Tezos, which is a pretty big shitcoin, right? Kathleen Brightman and Arthur Brightman, both of the Winklevi twins, right? The CEO and co-founders of Gemini. We've got Meltem Demirors, right? Who worked at CoinShares and who coined the term shitcoin waterfall. She's probably responsible for shilling some of the worst trash in the space, some of it being Tezos, among other things. And of course, she signed the New York Agreement, which was part of the block size war, essentially trying to force Bitcoiners to take on the Bcash narrative, which obviously is not what happened. How about the co-founder of Bancor? Or maybe Roger Ver, CEO of Bitcoin.com, probably the biggest outspoken attacker to actual Bitcoin, right? He used to be Bitcoin Jesus, and then the narrative started to change, but he needed to keep the same narrative because that's what it was, the Roger Ver narrative. So Munib Ali, who's the co-founder of Stacks, right? Another fake L2 for Bitcoin. This one has a really great story. You burn your Bitcoin in order to mint the shitcoin. And then we've got Kyle Samini, co-founder of Multicoin Capital, and Kyle's partner, Tushar Jain, who also is the co-founder of Multicoin Capital. Okay, so guys, that was Nakamoto.com. A whole bunch of Bitcoin supporters. Every single one of them was essentially, the point of that was to educate you, right? Bring you in with Bitcoin and then shill you the shitcoins. And I believe that is exactly what this crypto association, this crypto national association that Ripple Labs funded for $50 million, I believe that is exactly what they're doing as well. This is going to be no different. It's always the same thing. Now, the last thing I want to say before I shut up about this is this. If all of these altcoins are so important, if they're so desirable, then why is it only Bitcoin that is actually being looked at for not only the strategic reserve but even corporate treasuries? And again, I'm not a fanboy of corporations hodling Bitcoin, but I'm just trying to illustrate something to everyone. If these tokens are so valuable, if XRP is so valuable, why does the XRP Foundation dump it? Wouldn't it be way more valuable to hang on to it because it's going to increase in value and therefore allow them to, like Michael Saylor, borrow against their XRP holdings? Doesn't seem to be the case, though. They seem to be selling it every month, right? The Ripple escrow dumps 1 billion tokens every month for 55 months. If it was an asset that was truly going to revolutionize and change the world, possibly be used by the banking system, why would it be getting dumped? I know that it's tough to hear. I'm most likely going to get tons of hate. I always get hate whenever I do an XRP video or I do a BSV video. Essentially, anytime I dump on shitcoins, because there's always, essentially what happens is there's always shitcoiners that watch these channels, and I know because I was a shitcoiner and I used to watch Bitcoin only channels. Okay, so like you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, they're not mentioning my shitcoin, so mine's not a shitcoin. No, they're all shitcoins. Okay, they're all shitcoins. Bitcoin is the only real thing, and believe me, it's not easy being one of the few channels that actually tells the truth, right? Because it is much easier to sell you a fantasy that you're going to become some uber billionaire by holding a token that the company who created it can't get rid of it fast enough. It's not true, guys. It's not true. They are the bag dumpers, okay? And make no mistake, Brad can say whatever nice, fluffy things he wants about Bitcoin. He is an enemy of Bitcoin. Ripple is an enemy of proof of work and of Bitcoin. They desire to be a CBDC. We often see a lot of Ripple supporters cheering the state adoption of their token in order to impose control. Is tribalism killing Bitcoin? I don't think so. I think that tribalism is what's keeping Bitcoin alive and is what is actually helping people not get wrecked with altcoins. Anyways, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.